My name is Yotam Hod. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Gynica. Gynica is an R&D company specializing in clinically validated cannabis-based products in the field of women's health. A bit about myself. I'm a veteran of the Israeli Intelligence Services, headed the industry and liaison and sales of Comtech Med, the global medical conference organizer. And in the past almost 6 years, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Asana Bio Group, which is a holding company specializing in scientific advancements in the field of medical cannabis. Two of our subsidiaries, one of them is Gynica, which I'm still leading, as well as Lumir Lab, which is a research and development lab providing R&D services for different stakeholders and players in the cannabis value chain. Why cannabinoids and women's health and Gynica in general? So first of all, we are aiming to improve the quality of life and gynecological well-being of women across the globe. In the past 4 years or so, we've been running studies aimed to provide solutions for different undertreated disorders such as menstrual pain, painful intercourse, endometriosis. Yet you might ask yourselves, what does cannabis or cannabinoids have to do with women's health in general? Now, unfortunately, we are a full house of men here, so not everyone can grasp some of those conditions that I'm speaking about, but I'm happy to elaborate as well. But let's touch about the fact that the female reproductive system actually, after the brain, is the organ with most endocannabinoids, specifically anandamide. And as for that, we see a truly promising potential to treat different gynecological conditions. Moreover, we have a variety of historical evidence about the use of cannabis to treat different women's health conditions, all the way from ancient China, Persia, China, Syria, Asian Mesopotamia. We even know that Queen Victoria has been using cannabis tinctures to treat her severe menstrual pain. Moreover, we look at legal markets, especially American legal adult use markets, and we see already an enormous amount of different products aimed at gynecological conditions, whether it's Foria, which is the most well-known product, Quim, all the way from vaginal suppositories to lubricating gels, tinctures, patches, and etc. Yet there's one thing here. Would I dare giving any of these to my wife? The answer is no. And the point is that none of the current products in the market has gone through any safety or toxicity studies. And we don't know whether they are safe or not at all. Because when we speak about smoking a joint or vaping, no, there's thousands of years of historical evidence and knowledge about the safety profiles of such consumption methods. But when we speak about intravaginal use, no one knows whether it's safe or not. I mean, we can say, for example, that we know that THC can impact ovulation. It can potentially jeopardize fertility. And these are things that have to be tested and studied in order to bring a proper product to market. And as I mentioned, we see several unmet needs when we speak about product development containing cannabinoids. So the first thing is, which cannabinoids, which ingredients are you using? Why are you using THC and not CBG? Why are you using linalool and not limonene? No one knows today, and as we're familiar with other indications, nothing to do necessarily with women's health, why do you use strain A while strain B will be can cause exactly the opposite effect than what you're actually wishing for? So there's no consensus about that. Secondly, no safety or toxicity data. As I mentioned, specifically when you speak about such advanced consumption methods that are not just smoking or vaping. Standardization, we all are familiar with this fact. When we speak about medical products, there's no question about the need to standardize products. When you speak about adult use or recreational use, it's not as important comparing to specific medical needs. Another point is the fact that most look for high THC, but it's not necessarily the right ingredient for them, or in general, it's not necessarily good for specific conditions at all. And in the bottom line of it all, there's no clinical evidence behind 99.9% of the products we see in the market as of today. And therefore, Gynica is developing evidence-based, safe, and standardized products in the form of a vaginal suppository, as you can see, is our first product, as well as a lubricating gel. Our suppositories are aimed for menstrual pain, while the lubricating gel is mostly for painful intercourse. I will touch and elaborate on each and every one of the products and their features afterwards. Now, I would like to give you a taste of what we did in the past 3+ years or so, and everything to do with the development process that we've been through. So, when you speak about development of a medical product containing cannabinoids, then there's a process that needs to be done. I mean, so first, as mentioned, some strains can do exactly the opposite of an effect that you would be interested in. So therefore, first of all, we need to use a variety of strains, and that's what we actually did. We took dozens of strains and actually used them, extracted them, and then actually used certain in vitro models. In vitro is actually preclinical studies that are, or markers that are aimed specifically for specific conditions that we are targeting, as mentioned, specifically menstrual pain for us, painful intercourse, and endometriosis, which is actually a disease that its two main symptoms are menstrual pain and painful intercourse. But from our end, we needed to take a variety of strains, extract them, separate them into fractions, because when we speak about a strain that has 30, 40, 50 active ingredients, we don't necessarily need all of them. We would like to find out what is the minimal amount of ingredients that would give the maximal effect in a way. And as you can see here, there is a feedback loop. What do I mean by that? We actually use the strains, extract them, do all kinds of in vitro models, and then the ones we identified as the most promising, let's say, extracts, we then took back to our analytical lab, separated them into fractions or groups of ingredients, and then again did another in vitro model testing on it, up until we reached, and did it all over and over again, up until we reached the optimal ingredients that are giving the maximum effect on those specific models that are specifically dedicated or relevant for the conditions we are treating. And that actually allowed us to characterize a composition. And this composition of ingredients was then needed to be formulated into an end product. When I mean end product, is actually taking the active ingredients that we've identified and then add on top of them non-active ingredients in order to get specific, both the end product itself, such as in the form of a suppository, but moreover to have specific features. For example, in our suppositories, we were actually able to develop a novel feature that allows us for a slow release. I will show you some results of it afterwards as well. These are actually non-active ingredients that are added in order to have specific features that we would like to get from our products. After formulating the end products, we needed to take it into animal studies. Now, again, some would have some criticism about that. We believe that this is the right way to go, just as you expect from a pharmaceutical product. And after the animal studies that we ran, and I will show you some examples of that are, as far as we know, it was a global first of its kind animal study to test how intravaginal use of cannabinoids is actually affecting. We are now awaiting for final approvals to start our clinical trials. We're expecting 2 clinical studies in the coming year, global first of their kind. One is a phase 1. I will elaborate on it later on as well. But now I want to dive deeper a bit into the process that I've showed you. So, for example, you can see in our lab that we were able to isolate, identify, and extract a variety of ingredients. Our analytical work is being done by Professor Lumir Hanush, our chief scientist, who happens to be one of the founding fathers of cannabis research, discovered actually anandamide back in 1992, was the right hand of Professor Meshulam for 30 years, and he leads our analytical lab. Now, once we took these extracts and separated them into ingredients and then recombined them into certain combination of ingredients, we then took them and actually did some used preclinical models, in vitro models. And here I wanted to showcase you an example of why is it so important to fine-tune and develop a combination of ingredients that would, let's say, give the optimal effect. So this is a bit deeper of the scientific work that we're doing, but I wanted to give you a glimpse about why those proper scientific studies are so important and crucial in order to match specific compounds and combinations of compounds to different conditions. So in this case, we speak about COX-1 and COX-2. These are actually specific pain models, pain markers relevant for menstrual pain in this example. And as you can see, what I wanted to show here is that you can see that the exact two active ingredients, simply in the exact opposite ratios, gave a completely different effect. Exactly the same compounds, simply in the opposite ratios. One, actually, not only that it didn't, our goal here was to lower as much as possible the COX-1 and 2 levels. But what you can see here, for example, that in, let's say in this combination, we see that not only that it doesn't help, it actually even worsens a bit. Now, this is why is it so important to say that, let's say, you cannot just say we need a THCA and a CBG in a product. We need to have a specific ratio and concentration of these two, because sometimes the opposite or a different ratio of those can actually cause the opposite effect. Now, another example here, this relates to IL-6. IL-6 is an inflammatory model, inflammatory marker. And in this case, what we did, we all speak about the entourage effect, the synergy between active ingredients. And here what we showcased is we were actually able to prove that the synergistic effects of cannabinoids are indeed stronger when combined, comparing to just single compounds and even whole plant extracts. Now, this is important because if you can see, I mentioned IL-6 is an inflammatory marker, and if we lower it as much as possible, it means that it also reduces inflammation. Now, what you see here, combo 2 and 3, are actually combinations of ingredients that consist of those different ingredients. But when we combine them, then you can see that the sum is bigger than, let's say, the sum is bigger than the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. And the last two slides I showed, the purpose was to showcase the significant importance of choosing both the right ingredients and compounds candidates to treat and target specific conditions or symptoms. Now, these studies that we ran, and I showed you earlier on, these allowed us to receive a patent for two combinations that we've developed. The difference between them is one contains THC, the other one doesn't, because the separation is that the one that contains no THC will go to other, let's say, regulatory pathways. Yet, although we do see that both are bringing a very positive effect. Now, I mentioned that we're going to touch some about the formulation itself or the end product. So this menorrhea is actually menstrual pain. You can see our vaginal suppositories. And we had several goals here. We wanted to create the maximal local vaginal absorption, although it's in parallel to the menstrual flow. We wanted to have an extended action, meaning we wanted to be able to allow a woman to use it once or twice a day and not every 2 hours. And we also wanted to make sure that there is no systemic absorption. When we speak about our vaginal lubricant, that's aimed for painful intercourse. So we wanted to actually have a rapid release, because when we speak about, again, intercourse, needs to have a rapid release, to have a rapid onset. And we were able, with the assistance of our CTO, who's coming from 20 years of experience in the pharma field and has a lot of experience with formulating products, including several FDA-approved products. These are the features that were important for us to add in order to do it as we believe the right way. So again, as well here, we spoke about minimal systemic absorption, and of course not affecting or interfere with the pleasure of intercourse itself. Now, when we speak about vaginal use again, so we need to be aware of the fact that we can actually jeopardize or even risk if we're using active ingredients or not only actives, for example, that can cause irritation, that can cause change of pH. And as for that, it was very crucial to be aware of it, first and foremost, and then to address it with the right scientific tools. So I mentioned earlier that we have ran several animal studies, and this is one example which is astonishing, I would say, in order to see, for example, our formulation itself. So again, here we were able to show that a standard extract, a simple extract of only active ingredients from cannabis, as you can see in orange, reaches its peak absorption. Now, this is actually an intravaginal study that we ran on rats. This is the proper model for vaginal use of pharmaceutical drugs. The orange line was a pure extract of cannabis. What happened is that it reached a peak in the bloodstream after 1 hour, and then all went down and barely anything left. While when you look at our formulated extract that consists of exactly the same active ingredients, as you can see, the gray and yellow lines, what happened is that we were able to show, and not only that it doesn't cross what's called the systemic absorption, but we were able to show a constant 8-hour effect. Specifically with the yellow line. That's why, by the way, this is why we ran the study, in order to identify which of our formulations work better. So we were able to showcase that we do get an effect, but without crossing, on one hand, the systemic absorption, and still get an effect throughout many hours throughout the day. Now, this is crucial when we speak about vaginal suppositories, because, as I mentioned, we would like to allow a woman to use it once or potentially twice a day, but not every 2 hours, because from feedbacks that we hear from products that are sold, and I showed you earlier in US markets, for example, the feedbacks are that it does magic. It works great. But after 2 hours top, you need to use another one. And this is something that is not sustainable for a product that should be or aim to be a frontline treatment, because currently these conditions that I'm speaking about are actually undertreated, are unmet needs, are real unmet needs. And we see huge demand in terms of the interest, and in terms of what's called femtech, female technologies, in the past year or two, that's booming. There's a huge need and understanding that different women's health conditions as such have been neglected. And it's time to provide them with some relief and solutions that the medical and the scientific community, as well as the industry, have neglected for quite a while. So our next few steps, and as mentioned, we're now waiting for our last regulatory approvals. We're aiming for 2 studies in the coming 12 months. One is a phase 1 safety and toxicity study on humans, actually. It's, again, as you would expect from a pharmaceutical product. It's a blinded single center, single dose trial determining the safety, tolerability, and pharmacokinetics, PK, of 2 of our products, which will be followed by a phase 2A that's already testing the efficacy of our products, and again with a double-blind placebo-controlled study to test our product for endometriosis-related symptoms, which, as I mentioned, endometriosis-related symptoms, the 2 main symptoms of endometriosis, which is a disease affecting 1 in 10 women. The 2 main symptoms are menstrual pain and painful intercourse. So these are our next, I would say, our next major projects coming in the coming year. We lately announced that we're also entering and started actually development of a product for menopausal symptoms. And with this in mind, I've quite finished my presentation. I'm happy to answer with the few minutes that we have left. I'm a bit quicker than expected. Happy to answer any question, both in terms of women's health, both in terms of evidence-based or research on cannabinoids to treat different conditions. And thank you very much for your time.